Hello everyone, welcome to the Vanguard Uplink podcast. I am your host, CCP Gortz, and joining me once again is Game Director CCP Collins in all cameras. Today we are going to be talking about our most recent VIP test, how the feedback from that gets computed here in CCP London. We're going to talk a little bit about Dust.
Yes.
And
I'm allergic to it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But and more of your questions. So let's roll into it.
Yeah.
The first thing I'd like to do is cough. So we have just had a VIP playtest.
We have.
Round 2.
Two VIP playtests.
2 VIP tests, spaced apart by 3-4 weeks?
I think it was 3 weeks between
3
them.
weeks.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Went really well. Like, the purpose of the test was get people in, get playing the game, like, find some bugs, unearth some things we haven't been able to find, fall through holes in the map we haven't identified, and start giving us some early feedback on things. The first test was we go through like a hardening phase where we finish most of the work, but we start doing polishing, balancing, and bug fixing. So the first test was at the start of hardening, which was tell us all the things we need to harden, find all the things, give us your feedback, and then a test at the end of hardening to go, here's all the things that we hardened based on your feedback. Can you give us an idea of whether we've fixed it in a way that you would have liked, this responding to feedback, and kind of validating that approach, really.
Okay. And so obviously this was separated by 3 weeks, as you say.
Was,
yeah. So we've talked a bit about the messaging to the community and how that's going to change going forward. Tell us about the new method of talking to the fans.
Yeah, well, we tried two methods, didn't we?
We did.
We first tried a PDF, basically explaining what the test was about, where we wanted you guys to all go in and play, where the content was, and the things that we didn't really need any feedback on because we hadn't worked on them. That PDF wasn't largely read. Thank you.
I've seen the numbers.
Yeah. No. So there was a lot of confusion as to people not knowing what they were testing, where they needed to focus because it wasn't a fully complete map. It was still in progress, but there were areas that we wanted players to focus on. So we took a larger swing at it the second time. We recorded a video, and I hear that went down much better, really well, and it's a lot more referenceable. To kind of be slung around as an answer to questions on what am I looking at, what am I testing, just go and watch the video.
No, absolutely. And then it seems like basic, but we also put patch notes out for this one as well.
Oh, yeah.
You went
meaty, like 5 pages of patch notes, right?
Yeah, you went proper macho man there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some beefy patching notes, which also helped. I think it helps people see that we are listening. And can make those changes, which leads me into a bevy of feedback that we've had that we can. So let's go back to, you said that we were testing a very specific thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things I see pop up on Discord is like, why release just a snippet that you want us to test as opposed to just the whole game, the latest version of that?
Yeah, well, I think some of it pairs up with where we're at in development as well. So I think it's worth noting like what we wanted people to test is what we'd been working on and what we'd prioritized first. There are 2 development cycles before we get to alpha in July. And the first half of that was focusing on building out the base map, building up some example POIs, and focusing purely on the gunplay. So when we wanted people to go in, it's just like, right, we've overhauled how the gunplay works. Go in and tell us, does it feel better to shoot the gun? And we've made a new map from the ground up. It's not finished, but go in. Does it feel like you're on a planet in EVE? Does it connect to some of the things that you like, it to visually connect for? There's a citadel in the sky. There's a strong upworld presence. You're fighting Mordu's Legion. All of these things feel great in how they're represented. And go to these example POIs that we've built out. There's going to be, around 7 on the map. We've built 2 of them so far. Go in, fight, shoot, loot, try and get out, and tell us, we want this one to feel hard, we want this one to feel relatively easy. Does this one feel hard? Does this feel easy? If not, then we'll dial it up. And that's generally what we did, from between the first test and the second test, was listening to a lot of that feedback and kind of dialing things up, dialing things back. But like in terms of presenting the whole game, I think that question really is probably within the context of where we were with Operation Nemesis and the content that we had in the game there versus what we've got now and what we're presenting. I think it's worth noting the difference that we've made internally and what we're projecting externally as well. Operation Nemesis back in September, that was pre-alpha. We're now making the alpha of the game, and we are building up, and we have to build up quite a lot of things from the ground up. Operation Nemesis was it was kind of coming to the end of that pre-alpha approach. It was lots of experiments, lots of prototypes, lots of ideas, but nothing that was ever really at a full shippable quality, or what you'd consider a fully polished, ready to release. There were lots of different prototypes and ideas, and so when we came off the back of that and got a lot of feedback that the gunplay wasn't really feeling quite right, the maps weren't really feeling completed, there were a lot of incomplete systems. We had a lot of really cool ideas, but not ever to a quality level, and a lot of people were just bouncing off of it. They're like, this is too early, I'll maybe come back later, or this doesn't feel good enough. So it's like, okay, alpha needs to be release ready. Everything that we make needs to look and feel finished. So we need to start from the ground up in a lot of places, building a new map to the way that we want to build maps and how we want to lay them out around this new structured mode, and the gunplay with a new weapon built up, right? And it means that some of the stuff that we had in pre-alpha hasn't fully made it over. And it doesn't mean that they're dead. They're certainly not. We still want to build back up to that. But we had to really, I don't want to say the word reset, but it kind of feels like that. We really had to take some steps back and kind of go, right, we're looking at a lot of the complaints that we got from people returning and new. We had, I think, over 30,000 people turn up for Operation Nemesis. So looking at all of that feedback, looking at all of the, opinions that we got from people who just came in and bounced off or tried to stick with it, we needed to take some step backs and build back up from the core. We needed to build that gunplay, we needed to build better maps, and we needed to add more tension and difficulty and challenge to the experience. And that's really what we're doing, and that's what we're presenting now. What was pre-alpha was, and we will build back up to some of those ideas and experiments that people really got on with, but we did have to start and build from the ground up again in a lot of places, and this is what your testing is.
So nail the core first.
100%. Nail that. I think before this is anything, it needs to be a good shooter, and that was the first thing we wanted to concentrate on, and then we wanted to add more structure to the mode itself, and leaning more strongly into that kind of deploy, raid POIs, adding actually stricter POIs to the world that are more contained, better looting, which we're working on now in that second development cycle as well, and extracting, just building in the higher stakes and high tension that a lot of players told us were missing from the experience. Is kind of needs to be there. It's befitting of a game set within EVE Online. Undocking, going out and doing your business and trying to get back and dock before you die is a large spirit of that. So deploying down to the surface and trying to extract before you get killed, that spirit we want to be held there, and it needs to feel tense. It needs to feel like there's things at stake, and that largely wasn't there come Operation Nemesis. So that's what we're building into this for now.
Nice. Between Nemesis and now, obviously there's been some time to make some changes, but this VIP test that we've done, it was only really 3 weeks to take those reported, we don't like this, and make the changes to it. So so how long does it take to make a change in a game like this?
So it's really interesting. So in a hardening phase, so you're in a main production phase where there's a plan, right? It's like you're making this and then this and then this and then this. Hardening, there's no plan. It's like, right, we've made the stuff, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be improved. So the time it takes from seeing a comment or a bug or a thread on something in Discord, it's mainly was our primary source for this. It depends on if it's a bug, we have to replicate it. QA have to go in and play and find that bug, see it again, and then get a lot of information around that about how it occurs, what they were doing before, what they were doing after, and then giving that to a developer and getting that fixed. You can actually get quite a relatively quick turnaround from that. From a piece of feedback, like for example, the inventory space or the ammo scarcity was too much of a problem. That isn't just double it. Double it and check it in. We can't. Sometimes that's just a bit naive to do that. So it's a conversation. You go, right, you bring in a few designers and you bring in a few other people and you go, right, everyone's complaining that ammo scarcity is a big problem. We think it's probably it's tied to the inventory space as well, which a lot of players are complaining about. Let's think of what the best solution is to this. What is the right balance? And we have that discussion. We play around with a few things. We sometimes go too far and have to dial it back, or we don't go far enough. we test it internally a little bit, and we go, right, what generally feels about right here? Do we feel that's a good pass? And then that's push that in. And it was, from the early part, that first test of being told there's problems in the balance here, here, and here, having those conversations about how we want to address that, and then get it in, and then having that second test to then go, yeah, it felt a lot better. I wasn't feeling like the pinch of ammo was too strong of a problem, and the extra inventory space was allowing me to make better decisions about what I loot and what I, and then we're like, brilliant, cool, we've balanced, find a nice sweet spot. It's not to say that it's perfect, but we've addressed that feedback and it's moving in a positive direction.
So that's a great example of good feedback that you've been able to act upon.
Yeah.
So what sort of good feedback, and what is feedback that we don't really need at this point?
Yeah, well, it's always helpful, like, people giving feedback on the things we want them to give feedback on and test. There was a lot of feedback about, the map feels a bit too empty. And we knew that because we haven't finished the map yet, and there was only gameplay in 2 areas when we're going to have all of these other buildings and all of these ambient enemies moving around and all these smaller activities in places. So I think I don't want to say dismiss. We don't want to ever dismiss feedback, because you've got to try and understand the reason where it's coming from. But it was easy for us to go, well, look, we don't solve that right now. We weren't planning to solve that right now. That's going to be solved later. What is good feedback is stuff that we're testing, that, the gunplay. The gun felt better. I felt like I was more in control of it. I felt more embodied. I didn't feel like I was a gun floating through the space anymore. I felt like I was a person holding that weapon. And I think understanding why we've made those changes, which we describe in the video and we wrote in the PDF, and then giving feedback as to how have we achieved those things, is really good. I think sometimes as well, we have a vision and we're making a game in a particular way. People can certainly tell us, hey, I don't want you to make this game, but that's not feedback in my life. I can't go away and go, okay, right, in the 3 weeks between those 2 playtests, we need to completely change the game. That's not what we're going to do. This is the direction that we're moving in. This is what the game that we want to build. So I think sometimes there is some bad feedback about, hey, I wish you'd make another game. That isn't something we can action in that period of time.
No, sure. That is insightful. If you have found this insightful,
yes,
you do be sure to click the subscribe button, which should appear on screen right now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the latest and greatest Vanguard updates as soon as they come through. This is the place to find them, so do be subscribed. In terms of feedback, we are a lean team here in the UK office.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that pretty much everyone is reading that feedback?
Yeah, to some degree. Some people are heads down with the stuff that they're making, but we have artists going in and wanting to see if, that we had a lot of great feedback on, one of the things we were testing was, what does the map look and feel like? So we had a lot of members of the art team reading that feedback and, seeing if the work that they'd done and the hearts that they'd poured into their work, whether that was kind of paying off. It was the same with designers and the engineers that had worked on, and the animators that had worked on the gunplay, and getting that. So a lot of people it is a good sounding board, right? It's very easy to do work and go, I think that looks great, but we're not making the game for, everyone sat here. It would be brilliant if we could make, a successful game with only the team here playing it, but we're making it for everyone else. So to get that feedback and to get that validation in places, but the team also want steering. They want that feedback. They want to know the things that they want to change, and the things that we've gone maybe a bit too far on, or the things that we couldn't necessarily feel out in an internal playtest. You need a larger scale of people to kind of start to feel that out on a more repetitive basis.
So steering is an interesting tangent, because one of the things that we always see in feedback, no matter where we post it, is we get people asking for the big the big dust. And I was reading this morning that, like, you guys never talk about dust, even though I'm pretty sure it comes up in every single podcast that we do.
I think it does, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, like, dust and why that's important for steering. I mean, in my opinion, we've got some great dust vets in our community, and what we find it really useful for dust vets to do is help us steer the direction of, like, the art, because they spent their time in New Eden now it's Vanguard's time in New Eden, but we do appreciate that insight, that gained
yeah.
knowledge, that, you know, this fits, this feels like it belongs in New Eden. But of course, the answer we all get is why is this not Dust? And I think it's also fair to say this isn't Dust 2.
No, it's not. There was never the intention. And if anyone's been led to believe that at some point we are making Dust 2, I apologize. This isn't what we're making. We are making Vanguard. It does carry the spirit of a lot of Dust, right? It's a FPS game set in the EVE universe, and the things that people like about it, when you really drill down to it in certain aspects, it isn't just about, Dust wasn't just about a PvP conquest style mode, right? It was about the suit fitting. It was about the connections with EVE. It was about the feeling that you are connected to a game that has other people in it, and how the corporations kind of spread those things. The economy of Dust was extremely different to any other FPS game I'd played as well. And I think those are the things that for me, and for us, and what we're building into this experience is you'll get little visual nuggets and things that we're working through and little kind of Easter eggs here. Whilst the mode is very different in terms of it's not just a PvP conquest mode, it's a PvEVP kind of sandbox that has extraction to it. The spirit of an FPS in the EVE universe, what we want to do with suits and customization and fitting that was integral to Dust, that we want to build into the experience, and that connection to EVE, we want to go even further than Dust ever went. It's not just about OBs and joining and the social sides of things. I think we can connect these games in a much more meaningful way, and I think that's really what we're aiming for. There's a spirit there, and whenever I talk to people who are just like, hey, why aren't you just remaking Dust? I'm going, well, tell me specifically about the things that you liked in Dust. And it's like, oh, I just, I want PvP. And it's just like, well, there's going to be 17 other players on this map running around. If you just want to run around and hunt them, that's also there as well. But we also experimented with PvE modes and PvP modes back in pre-production. And whilst we're going back to that core mode that we're making at the moment and building up from there, it's not to say that we won't have PvE or PvP experiences that we build into the game. But
no, it's to say we build the core first,
yeah,
and then we bring on top of that.
Yeah, it's very difficult because we brought people on really early.
Yeah.
Right. We've been in pre-alpha for 3 years, and now we're going into an alpha period. People will only really, for any other project that's ever released, you'll only ever really be seeing the project when we go into early access is when a lot of people join. So I get that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily see that experimentation part. They'd see the bit that we've done the experimentation, we've taken the learnings, and now we've built a solid product from it. So we've gone through that journey with them. And I understand, people may feel like, well, why aren't you finished yet? And it's like, well, this is how it works. You experiment, you find the right ideas, you're in basically a pre-production step. And now we start shifting towards alpha. Now we're starting to really boil it down to the things that we can get going back to that foundation and building on top of it.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Okay, so we build the core of Vanguard, and then we're going to see some shades of EVE past and future coming into it on top of that.
And there will be some of that embedded in the core, right? This is an EVE FPS, right? It's gonna feel like an EVE FPS, and we want it to. It's gonna be embedded in that core, but all of those meta features, all of those customization features and those fitting features, it gets a lot easier to layer them on top when we've nailed a decent shooting experience. And you'll get a bit of that. Like weapon fitting is deep already enough in Vanguard, and the next thing that we get to when we get to fitting is certainly suits. Everyone's been asking for suit fitting and different suits, and that is coming, right?
Yeah. Okay, so stick with us for the core, and then the cherries on top will be along in no time.
Yes.
All right, I think I've taken up enough of your time today.
Thank you.
We didn't even talk about the shirt, but we've run out of time. So thank you very much for watching. Right, so if you have questions that we can answer on a future podcast, do type them below or join us on our Discord. And in a few weeks, we will ask the man himself.
Ooh.
Or maybe someone more suited. I was going to say qualified, and I reeled myself back.
No, definitely more qualified.
More qualified. So get them written down. We will answer them as soon as we can. This has been CCP Collins. I'm CCP Gortz. Make sure you subscribe to us for the latest and greatest Vanguard news, and we will see you next time on the Uplink podcast. Ta-ra!
Let me at 'em.
The Uplink podcast, Attitude Era.
Yes.
Stone Cold Collins.
Stone Cold Collins, and I don't know. You're a bit more Stone Cold Austin. You
Just
got
with the
yeah.
aerodynamic.
Whom I don't know. I'm a bit Mick Foley with the.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
It depends if you want to work backwards. Like, oh,
Get me a mask.
yeah, CCP Collins.
Yeah. Or Undertaker.
Oh, you'd make a good Undertaker. I was there. I was there. Is this camera still on? No. So I won't talk to that one. Okay, like